From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 5, ICE protests gripped the nation this weekend, including the Bay Area.
It was murder. She was driving away. She was trying to get away. He shot her in the face.
Coming out here, it's cathartic to know that you're surrounded by others who care.
Plus, demonstrators call out Chevron for its presence in Venezuela. The scene at the refinery in Richmond today.
We can see that Trump believes in, drill baby drill is his slogan. So controlling the world's oil reserves seems to be very important to him and the people that probably have been pushing his buttons.
All this in a moment, but first breaking news. A San Francisco music legend, Bob Weir, has died at the age of 78. He was one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead and co-wrote some of the band's most popular hits, including Sugar Magnolia and Truckin'. Despite beating cancer, Weir's family announced that he died because of underlying lung issues earlier today. Now to a day of mass activism across the country and here in the Bay Area. Demonstrators are demanding that ICE leave their cities following that fatal shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good in Minneapolis on Wednesday. New video and new angles of the incident continue to circulate online, showing that her vehicle is moving as an agent tries to open her driver's side door. After she puts the car into drive, another agent fires through the windshield, killing her. Trump administration insists the agent was acting in self-defense, afraid that he was about to be run over. Minnesota officials and protesters note the turning of the car's wheels as evidence that she was trying to drive away. Kristi Noem called Good an instigator, saying that she was attempting to commit an act of domestic terrorism, while the mayor of Minneapolis and other state officials demand that ICE leave the city. That sentiment has sparked anti-ICE movements nationwide, including here in the Bay Area. Hundreds of people turned out in Concord, in Santa Rosa, and in San Francisco. Dial N was on the ground for us today in downtown San Francisco, where hundreds of people gathered for 2 blocks in every direction.
The protesters are extremely peaceful, but they are very, very loud. And that's the point. They're fed up and they want to be heard.
What's her name? Renee Good. What's her name? Renee Good.
Protesters say this is what democracy looks like. Expressive, deafening, and passionate. Hundreds of people gathered on sidewalks and the center median near Van Ness Avenue and O'Farrell Street.
It feels good to be out here.
Dan Hogan of Foster City and his 2 kids joined the rally on Saturday afternoon to protest the killing of Renee Good. While it's a tough topic for an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, Dan believes it's an invaluable lesson outside of the classroom for his kids.
Historically, this is how things change, is through the direct action of sometimes not that many people, but a growing number of people who stand up against what's wrong.
To see that people actually care of what's happening in this country, and it has to be safe for everybody, not just us.
The demonstrators say their tax dollars should not be used to hurt or kill innocent people. They don't buy the self-defense claim. They believe the ICE agent murdered Renee Good.
It was murder. She was driving away. She was trying to get away. He shot her in the face.
Is a woman, a mother. She was just in her car, and cold-blooded murder.
They feel like they could just shoot us, and that's not the America that I know.
Protesters blame President Trump, saying his administration creates division and enables violence toward good people. They say they hope this is a turning point for democracy and decency.
The more of us do that, the more the people who enable Trump, feel a little weaker, not so sure. Should I follow those orders? Is that right? Is that wrong? I think that if we all stand together, it shows that the true principle here is on our side, and that I think it weakens his defenders and enablers.
Despite the challenges this country faces, Dan and his kids say they're still optimistic about what the future holds.
There'll be more pushback, and it'll lead to some actual systemic change.
I think it needs to change, and it has to change quickly before it gets too late and it's too big.
So where do they hope to go from here? Organizers certainly hope this is not a flash in the pan. Protesters say they want this anger and frustration to lead to a much larger uprising and sustained change. More protests are planned for next weekend.
U.S. intervention is also being talked about regarding Iran. Today, the president said Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. This comes just hours after Secretary of State Marco Rubio tweeted his support for the people of Iran. The unrest started nearly 2 weeks ago over brutal economic conditions in the country made worse by U.S. sanctions. Human rights groups estimate at least 65 people have already been killed by the regime in all of those demonstrations, which have been carried on for about 2 weeks. In Berkeley, demonstrators protested the conditions in Iran after the regime cut off access to the internet this week.
My goal for protest one is to have the voice of Iranian people be heard. They want to get rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they want the Pahlavi, the Shah's son, to come back and lead them. That's what they want, and that's why I'm here. I want to be their voice.
The Trump administration has said that it will intervene if protesters continue to be killed. Andrea?
A beloved coach and mentor remembered in Oakland today. The life and legacy of John Beam after the break.
Yeah, we're going to be tracking the fog coming up. Perhaps next week we'll have much more in the way of details on that and just how likely it is. It does look like a possibility, but that's next week. You still have another cold weather advisory waiting to greet you early Sunday morning. We'll take a look at how low these numbers are going to go for those inland locations. Forecast is coming up right after the break.
And welcome back. Before the break, we mentioned the protests over the presence of ICE agents in various cities. There was also unrest over U.S. intervention in Venezuela today. It's now more than a week after the U.S. captured former President Nicolas Maduro. Since then, the Trump administration has made it clear that it intends to prioritize oil extraction under the new regime. Right now, Chevron is the only U.S. firm that is still operating in Venezuela, but already Exxon is reported to be studying a return to Venezuela. Chevron, which used to be headquartered in San Ramon, is already planning a big production bump. And so protesters were in Richmond today at the Chevron refinery, demanding that the company put an end to what they characterize as war profiteering. John Ramos brings us some context.
Chevron has a long history in the Bay Area. Its Richmond refinery is more than 100 years old, and until recently, its global headquarters was right here in San Ramon. But the company also has a history in Venezuela, and some are questioning how that may be changing in the future.
No wars for oil! No wars for oil! No.
Protesters gathered outside Chevron's Richmond refinery, but the company kept its name out of it by covering up all of its signs. The group, many who oppose Chevron's presence for environmental reasons, was drawn to the site by last week's takeover of Venezuela and capturing of its president, Nicolas Maduro.
The Trump administration did let people know before the bombs dropped, but it wasn't Congress that he let know. It was the oil companies.
Originally, President Trump said the military buildup in the southern hemisphere was to combat Venezuelan drug dealers.
But he has, now that this has happened, really changed the tune to say the truth, which is that a lot of it is so that we can extract some of the largest oil reserves in the world.
There isn't much doubt that that is important to the oil companies, many who met with President Trump on Friday.
It's in the best interest of these companies and, frankly, society as a whole for the industry to be interested in understanding what the opportunity here represents.
Venezuela sits on the largest known oil reserves in the world, but the entire industry was taken over by the government in 1976. The country enjoyed a huge jump in prosperity and foreign investment was welcomed in the 1990s. But eventually, the single-focused economy soured, leading to civil unrest and the rise of populist Hugo Chavez. His corrupt and incompetent regime seized the foreign assets in 2007, causing ExxonMobil and Conoco to pull out of the country. But Chevron stayed, exporting just a tiny bit of oil to U.S. refineries, which are able to process the extremely dirty and heavy crude oil. Now that Chavez's successor, Maduro, has been ousted, Chevron sits in an advantageous position as the only American oil company in the country.
And thank you for continuing to keep American energy domination in the forefront. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
But it may take some time and a lot of money to do that. The Venezuelan oil infrastructure is in such bad condition that it would cost billions of dollars to make it productive again. But back in Richmond, Eric Swabeck was pretty sure the oil companies, including Chevron, will get plenty of assistance from the Trump administration.
We can see that Trump believes in, drill baby drill is his slogan. So controlling the world's oil reserves seems to be very important to him and the people that probably have been pushing his buttons.
Add to the intrigue the fact that China is the main customer of Venezuelan oil and Russia shares an oil transport system, and you have the makings of an explosive political situation.
Okay, let's get reoriented now in the forecast. The notion of rain should probably be put out of our minds for a while. It's going to be perhaps not till the end of this month, if you trust even the long-range models to be able to see that far. Bottom line, for the next 7 days, 10 days, easily, high degree of confidence now, we're not getting any more rain for that period. Look what's happening out there right now. That's a live picture from the camera on Black Mountain looking over the Santa Clara Valley. So that's Stevens Creek Boulevard right there, stretching off towards the distance. And look at the haze. We are already starting to develop that winter inversion. When the storm track goes away and high pressure sets up, you tend to really start developing this pattern where you trap everything in. Let's take a look back at the bay now for a second, where you trap everything in and it just sits around, and that is what we are starting to see. Cold mornings, hazy skies, and a little bit of Thule fog. All three of those factor into this pattern when we get that big center of high pressure just locking everything in. Let's start with what might be the first headline. Morning lows, going to be cold tomorrow. Go ahead and look at some of those interior valleys. Mid-30s again here. 36 tomorrow in Livermore and in Concord. It'll be 33 in Petaluma. That's the start of the day. Let's transition these to a somewhat brighter color tone and get the numbers on here for the afternoon. We'll be looking at daytime highs in the low 60s. There is a warm-up coming after this. So let's go to the 7-day forecast. We need to look at three of them now because the pattern that is set up, the microclimates are going to start to play a role. The coast is going to be warmer than most locations. Look at the 7-day forecast. Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, Stinson Beach. Temperatures will be near 70 by next week in the afternoon. We're not all doing that. I'll show you what happens here. We'll take a look at the numbers for the Bay, where we won't be quite that warm. We'll be close. Instead of upper 60s, we'll probably be more like mid-60s for much of next week. Remember, each one of these mornings probably has a little bit of patchy fog on it, but not overwhelming. And it'll probably be a bit hazy as well. The hazy skies will linger. Just remember that view we just shared of what it looks like in the Santa Clara Valley right now. Inversion was trapping in the haze. It's going to stay relatively cool in the mornings. Some patchy fog as well as the Thule fog builds back in. Those are the inland numbers. They're the coolest 7-day forecast of the three microclimates because of that Thule fog influence and the inversion trapping in the cold air. That's the next 7 days. All right, Andrea, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. In Oakland, family and friends of legendary football coach John Beam gathered today for a celebration of his life at the Henry J. Kaiser Center. Beam was a head coach of the Laney College football team in Oakland from 2012 to 2024 and gained national recognition after starring in the Netflix documentary Last Chance U. A beloved East Bay mentor, more than 30 of his former students ended up playing in the NFL. We have heard from many of his friends and players, but today his cherished two daughters spoke out about what legendary Coach Beam meant to them. And that's that. Coach John Beam is known for having a very large extended family, but at home, he was surrounded by the love of three very special women in his life. His wife, Cindy, and his two daughters, Sonia and Monica.
I was born in the middle of football season. And if you ask my dad, that was no coincidence. He always said it was perfect timing, early enough in the morning, so he could be there with my mom, hold me, and then still make it back up the hill to Skyline in time for practice.
Through the pain and tears, they shared fond memories of the man they called Dad.
My dad called me his mini-me. We're a lot alike. But one of the greatest gifts I got from him was a desire to constantly learn and be curious. Even in his 60s, he was still learning and evolving.
Most everyone here knew my dad as Coach Beam. But there was another side of him, softer, sweeter, and somehow even more profound. The version of him who was Bappa to my two girls. And this was his absolute favorite title.
Many of his closest friends also spoke at the memorial, each of them thanking his family.
He was loved by thousands, and he reciprocated. He loved all those thousands back. But he didn't love none of us like that Cindy, Monica, and Sonia, okay? And they shared him with us, and that was big time.
Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee and Congresswoman Latifah Simon also talked about what Coach Beam meant to his community, especially the many players and students he impacted over the years.
Cindy, Monica, and Sonia, I love Coach. One of the greatest lessons that he left me with was the example of how he fiercely loved his girls. And so I want to love and lift up my own two daughters in that same way, the same way that John loved you all.
We from the town, make some noise in this thing. Yeah. You were so much more than a football coach. You were my hero, my mentor, and the most important person in my life. You believed in me before I believed in myself. And that belief changed who I am.
His daughters say while he passionately loved them all, his grandchildren held a very special place in his heart. His tragic death took away valuable time with his grandkids, but what Coach Beam stood for will be shared for generations to come.
Legacy isn't measured by trophies or titles. It's measured by who you show up for, who you believe in, who you protect, uplift, and love again and again. My dad showed up everywhere, for everyone, all the time.
The red carpet is out at the Beverly Hilton in Los Angeles, where the Golden Globes set to kick off. It will air right here on CBS. Coverage starts at 5 p.m. tomorrow. If you're looking for news at that time, you can catch us on the stream at 5 p.m. on Sunday as well. We'll be competing with the Golden Globes. Wonder who will win.
And we'll see you at 6.
CBS Weekend News.